Well, welcome back to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz, and August 1st is coming up quick, and when it does, hunting season is going to start, at least for one species in several states. We're talking fall bear hunting season. It kicks off on the 1st in Oregon, Washington, and a few portions of Wyoming. For the rest of our listeners in Montana and Idaho and other parts of Wyoming, you're going to have to wait. The openers vary from August 30th in Idaho to September for Montana to as late as October 1st in one part of Wyoming. But when it comes to hunting bears in the summer, you've got to think differently than hunting bears in the late fall. That's why we've got Troy Rodakowski. He's an outdoors writer. He's based in Oregon, avid bear hunter with us today. Troy, great to have you back on the air.
John, it's great to be back with you. Always a great pleasure.
So, Troy, let's talk about summer bears, because this is, pardon the pun, a different animal when it comes to hunting than spring bear or fall bear. And I guess we should start with, what are the bears doing during the month of August so that we know where to look for them?
Well, right now, I mean, the bears, the rut for the bears kind of ramps up in June and finishes off in July. They spend a lot of energy breeding and looking for other bears, and right now they're trying to start to store all their fat reserves for the winter and the coming fall. So they're looking for a lot of food. You're going to find them in clear cuts. You're going to find them around berries and, going up and down hillsides in the deep timber, digging for grubs and other bugs and stuff like that. So they're trying to build their energy back up basically this time of year.
Okay. Now, I know later in the fall, and I remember this vividly, I was up in Stehekin in the North Cascades, and you'd see the black bear come down and basically take out the spawning kokanee out of the streams. Too early for that. So we're really focused on berries, really focused on clear cuts, where we can both see the bears and know that there's some feed available for them there. Is that right?
Right. And also, you got to keep in mind this is August, so they're going to stay close to drainages and swampy areas and areas where they can go root around, get some water. But they do like to bask in the sun. That's probably one of the biggest things that hunters make the biggest mistakes on, is that the bears will be out there in these clear cuts. And there's so many times I hear the story, and you've probably heard the story. Oh, I thought it was a log. I watched it for 3 hours, and then all of a sudden that log disappeared. And they'll go out there and lay in the sun just like you or I would and fall asleep. And so it's the patience is a key on the bears here in August and late summer like this.
Let's talk about other tactics that you employ for this heat of the summer bear hunting that maybe you wouldn't be doing later in the fall or in the spring.
Right. The spring seasons are usually pretty early. A lot of the calves and fawns haven't been born yet. So now this time of year, you've got young calves and fawns that have been born, and a lot of times setting up and calling, using some calf elk calls, calf in distress, lost fawn bleats, and bawling. You can get bears to come in, and they'll come running in. I've had several guys have bears come running in. I've had bears come running in on me, and it happens quick, so you have to be ready, and that's one of the best ways to maybe bag a bear or even get a chance to see one, that a lot of people forget to use that tactic this time of year.
I'm thinking to myself, though, the problem with using a call is you might attract other animals that aren't in season that are also predators. I'm thinking cats and wolves.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that happens too. You have to be, the smartest thing when you're doing that is you have to be in a position to make a decision and be aware of all your surroundings. A 365-degree view, if you can get one, of your surroundings is usually the best, because you can call something in. It can come in from behind you. You have to be aware. And, you can even call in a curious hunter that's out there too, so you got to be really careful what you're doing.
And that's something else I want to talk about. One issue with hunting this time of year is that you're sharing the woods with a lot of other users that are not hunters. We're talking about hikers, and we're talking, as we get later into August, or even now in some cases, berry pickers, like huckleberry pickers.
Right. And, that's the other thing. If you are close to a roaded area or areas that people frequently use, parks or whatever, you have to be aware, or even public grounds that are generally popular for use, you need to keep in mind that there are going to be other people out there. And there might be people that are upset that you're actually hunting just because they don't support that sport. But you have to be aware of it at all times and keep in mind that other people are out there, and be as courteous as you possibly can.
And one other thing for our listeners out there who are out there hiking or camping or berry picking after August 1st, where bear hunting season is open, I know my favorite color to wear when I'm on the trail during this time of year is blaze orange. And ladies, fluorescent pink, also a great option. Just be visible. We don't want any hunters making mistakes, and you don't want to be the victim of any of those mistakes. So getting back to tactics, Troy, I love this idea of calling in animals. Now, what about the classic, we're going to go to a high point, maybe we're going to be going along Forest Service roads and stopping now and again in glassing ridge lines. Is that still part of the game here?
Oh, that's definitely part of the game. And, Western Washington, Western Oregon, even in Idaho and other parts of the West where there's been logging, a lot of guys will do that. They'll drive the roads, park at a landing, get out, get their spot and scope out, take some time, comb the hillsides and watch it. And they'll do that, and cover several miles during the day and do it several different times. And a lot of times they'll see bears thousands of yards away that they can't even get to. But that's one of the most popular tactics that hunters use in the fall and in the spring.
When it comes to spot and stalk hunting for bears, I'm guessing just like any other animal, your best time of day to do this is going to be, right after dawn, because obviously if you spot a bear in the evening, putting that stalk on, you just don't have the time to do it, do you?
Right. If you're going to find a bear and you see him from a long ways away, it will, especially in the country we live in here in the Pacific Northwest, it's going to take some time to get there. And, it always looks easier than it is before you start. So you know how that goes. You get halfway down there and you're like, oh, why am I doing this? Early in the morning, is the best time to actually find one. If you find one during those hours, and make a plan and put a stalk on it.
One other thing we need to talk about is caring for the meat of the animal after you harvest it, because, you'd hate to shoot a bear on a hot summer date and have all that meat spoil. What do you do to guard against that?
Well, the most important thing is when you get that bear down and as quickly as you can get to it, and sometimes it isn't as quickly as you'd like, the first thing you're going to want to do is get it gutted. You're going to want to get it field dressed. You're going to want to actually remove the hide as quickly as possible, because that's what's trapping all that moisture and heat in there. And then the best thing to do is get air to that meat and get it cooling down and heading in the right direction. If you can, obviously you're probably going to have to make several trips in and out of the woods to get a bear out. If you can get it hung up in a shaded, cool area, or even by a creek, or get it down into the creek and wash it off and then hang it as you pack each quarter out or whatever it may be, just keep it cool and clean, and chances are you're going to be just fine.
We are going to have to leave it at that, but before we do, I know you're always writing articles about hunting. Where can folks catch them in the next couple of months?
You'll probably be able to see a few of them in Oregon Hunter Magazine. You're going to probably be able to find some in Northwest Sportsman, Game and Fish, a lot of the local regional magazines here. I'm going to have some big game stuff, and I hope if you do find one of my articles, you enjoy it, and it's helpful with whatever you guys are doing out there.
Well, they generally are very enjoyable. They generally are very helpful, and that's why we love having you on Northwestern Outdoors Radio. Thanks as always, Troy.
Hey, thank you, John. I love being on.